Today's Q&A question is brought to you by Horary Astrology. Now, before I even get to the question, some of you may be asking, Catherine, what did you just say? What is this kind of astrology? Yeah, it's spelled Horary, horary, and it has the same root word as hour. So this basically translates to the chart of the moment or the chart of the hour. And it's also known as interrogational astrology, where we use it to ask questions. We use it to ask astrologers very specific questions. And horary astrology was really useful in ancient times because, one, you don't need a nativity chart. You don't need a natal chart in order to use horary astrology. If you have like a very specific question, like, am I going to get the job? Are they the father? Like questions like that. Horary can get right to it in a way that natal astrology cannot always do. Sometimes natal astrology and transits are actually more appropriate to answer someone's question, but typically horary astrology allows us to answer very specific yes or no kind of questions. The other reason it was really useful in medieval times and ancient times was its ability to diagnose, its ability to get a window inside of the body in a way that ancient practitioners couldn't do, such as like nowadays we have modern medicine that allows us to literally get an ultrasound and see inside the body or an x-ray. Ancient peoples, medieval peoples did not have those capabilities. So using divination was one of the best windows into the body, especially with astrology and its ability to understand a person's makeup, a person's temperament, basically, and like what body type a person has. So astrology was really useful for diagnosing and treating different ailments and understanding their course. So that's one way that horary astrology became incredibly useful. So in today's times, it's also very useful. It's not as well known. And today's question is, can a horary outcome change? So in other words, if I ask an astrologer a question and they cast a horary chart and they cast a chart for the moment to answer my question, can I and I don't like my answer, can I ask it again? The answer is no. You cannot just like a magic 8 ball, like, hey, does so and so love me? And then you get a no, and so you're going to shake it and answer it again. No. That doesn't work. That doesn't work because the universe is intelligent. The universe is alive. Everything around us is interconnected and alive. And we basically live in a cosmic clock. Like our clocks are based on the apparent movement of the planets from planet Earth. Like if you want to break down the 24-hour day and the hours and the minutes, like there's always a celestial connection. We're going to be talking about that in my course, my upcoming course, Time Lords and Transits. But anyway, there's a system that tells us that the question has been asked at the correct time. Like there's indications in the chart that like, yes, this chart has been asked at the correct moment. This is the most divine, perfect moment to answer this question. And philosophically speaking, yes, there could probably be other moments in time that could also adequately answer the question, but that the moment of the time resonated with the astrologer and the querent, the person who asked the question, for this all to kind of conspire together to be able to answer a question based on the planet's current positions. It's like so wild. And of course, everything is alive and intelligent and designed to offer us this capability. It's so cool. So to just kind of disregard the wisdom of the cosmos, this like oracular tool, this like incredible blessing that we have to communicate with the gods. To just say like, oh, I don't like that answer. Can I just answer? Can I ask another time? The answer is no, because what will happen is the second chart that you cast is not going to give you those confirmations of the first chart that says this is the chart that is going to answer the question. The chart may not have the charge, it may not have the energy, it may not just do a good job of describing the situation. So that's part one of my answer of, can I ask again? Okay. But the real question that I've been getting from people is, when can I ask again? When is it appropriate for me to ask my horary question again? And two things. One, you want to wait till circumstances have changed. You want to wait until the situation has played out and developed, because very often we're asking a question about a present situation. And like, I get a lot of love questions. That's like the biggest thing that I get is people want to know, hey, like, is it going to work out with this person? And I don't always like telling people this. Like, I want to be able to be like, yeah, lucky you, it's all going to be great. But the truth is that most relationships are going to pose some degree of challenge, or we wouldn't really be here doing the work because we want to grow on some level, right? Like, of course we want our relationships to be smooth, but it's kind of like not really the deal that they're always going to be flawless. I think that it's part of our lot in life to relate with people who we aren't always going to be on the same exact level with. Like, that's how it's like the exhale to the inhale of life's existence. Like, some things are going to go your way, but not always. Like, it's a give and a take. And I don't know. I just think that just because a horary says, hey, yeah, there's going to be some bumps in the road, or you may decide that you don't want to be in this relationship in time, or they may decide that they don't want to be in the relationship in time. I don't think that that's reason enough to walk away. Like, a lot of times people ask horary questions because they want to gather some semblance of insight and therefore control. They're uncomfortable with not knowing. Or maybe there's a red flag and they do want to know, like, am I crazy, or should I take this warning sign seriously? And I do think that unless the chart is like screaming at you to run away, that seeing some sort of indication that there's going to be challenge shouldn't be enough to necessarily stop you from having an experience that could be valuable on some level. Like, just because it isn't going to be permanent doesn't mean it can't be valuable to your growth. Now, if you're someone who's like, Catherine, like, I'm sick of wasting my time. Like, I just want to find someone that it's going to be pretty good, that's going to be pretty smooth with, like as smooth as possible. Well, then maybe that is your indication to say like, okay, like, I'm not going to waste my time. I'm going to keep looking. So I think it's like kind of up to you. Like, do you feel really drawn to the person? Does a horary chart saying like, hey, this looks like it could be challenging in time, if that doesn't feel like it's a no yet for you, then maybe there's something you're meant to experience. If you were casting the chart with some worrisome gut feelings in mind, then maybe that is your indication to say like, yeah, I don't know, like, I'm going to take my agency and open myself up to something else. So I think it's really a personal decision. But sometimes people will get an answer like, oh yeah, like, it looks like it's going to be something challenging in this blossoming relationship. And people want to know, like, can that change over time? Like, how long does this reading last for? And again, like, we do have a certain degree of agency at times, like, not always when it comes to relationships, because unless the other person is like on your side and like wanting to work and wanting to overcome something that could look like an obstruction to a long-term relationship. If both people aren't willing to work, then, that chart may just be the chart that explains what happens from start to finish. But if both people are really willing to put in the work, then maybe the outcome can be changed. In which case you would want to recast the chart once circumstances have changed. So let's say you're in a relationship and both people have grown a lot and have done a lot of work, and you want to cast the chart to get some insight on the relationship. Maybe it's going to describe something different. But again, you want to wait for that circumstance to change. You want to wait for the situation and the dynamic to change. So something that my teacher, Deb Holding, and Dr. Lee Lehman, and Wade Caves, and Eve Dembowski always taught me from STA, that's where I learned how to do horary, is to set a time frame when you ask the question. So that gives you license to be able to ask again in time. So let's say I say, will this relationship work over the next year? Or, oh wait, here's a better one. People always want to know if they'll get back together with their ex. So you may say, will we get back together in the next year? Okay. And that's a really smart way to phrase the question, because then if you don't like the answer, you can just ask again in a year. And we were always taught not to ask end all be all questions for that reason, that circumstances can change. So to not ask, will I ever find love? Like you don't even want to ask that question, because you don't actually want to know the answer to that. If it's going to be a no, you don't even want to, no one's ready to see that. Don't ask questions that you're not ready to hear the answer to. That's a big one. And also take the time to meditate exactly on the question that you want, because when that question feels really strong and supercharged is when you're going to get the strongest response. Like I've gotten charts from people where it's like, yeah, this feels like a strong question, but the chart is not. Why? And I come to find out that the person was like, well, I wanted to get a reading with you, but I decided to cast a horary instead. And so like there wasn't a lot of thought behind and intention behind that specific question. They just wanted to connect with me. So to meditate on your question for a while is also recommended. So that is my long, elaborate answer as to, can horary outcomes change? 1, always specify a time frame when you ask the question. 2, they can change. Give it some time to play out and see what happens. And then you can always revisit and ask again later. So that's my biggest piece of advice, is specify the time frame, and then yes, give it time to develop and play out, and then you can always circle back and ask again. All right, for more horary insights, you can continue to follow along with me here at Astro Catherine, where I will continue to answer your questions. So if you have more horary questions, send them my way, and I look forward to answering them for you. Until next time, take care. Bye. Thank you so much for tuning in with me today. For more astrology in your world, you can connect with me on all platforms at Astro Catherine. You can also find me at catherineurban.com, where you can schedule your year ahead consultation. I'm offering a new course. Time Lords and Transits begins on August 14th. Right now, you can still get that early bird rate through the end of June. This is an 11-week mentorship where I'm going to teach you everything I know about how to layer annual profections and transits together in order to elevate your understanding of what time it is in your life and in the lives of your clients. So for more information, you can find that at catherineurban.com, where you can also sign up. And I look forward to connecting with you in class or here or in session soon. Bye.